Welcome to another segment of provocative conversations destined to provoke further thought and spark greater questions regarding God, church, and the religious establishments of both the past and the present. I am the proud heretic, Mr. Provocateur himself. Good evening. This is the ordained heretic. I am the proud heretic. I want to continue on in the subtopic of this divine season of the pandemic. In the second recording, in relation to the world and its systems, again, because this pandemic is a pandemic, or is labeled a pandemic, meaning it is worldwide. It doesn't necessarily have any borders. It has no respect of persons as to where it has gone and where it will continue to go and reside. Because of that, there is something divine in the fact that it is a pandemic. This is just not something that's by happenstance or by some one countries like China. This is not just one country. What we fail to realize, the church really needs to be ashamed of themselves. If you consider yourself a church or the church, you should be ashamed of yourself for not standing up for what is right and for what is just. See, the church, you swear that you uphold the Bible, yet the Bible say we fight not against flesh and blood. Yet at the same time, you echo when it is said, China, China. I thought it was not against flesh and blood. Well, see, China, we're talking about principalities. No, you're not talking about that. You're talking about the very thing that the one who continues to say it is talking about, and you know it, and you have no proof to show it. And the Bible also says about a lot about not judging. How do you judge that? Have you seen the proof of that? Has God told you that? We would all be amazed if I were to say it could have come, it probably came, it most likely came from the United States. It would be no different as to how you're putting it on China. In fact, it would probably be more correct than, because much of the viruses of this world have come from within the United States. Viruses of all sorts, but more of a spiritual sort that I'm talking about. But we cannot put this on one particular country or one particular type people. This is a worldwide pandemic. China is not able to do all of this alone. And even if it were all from China, well, God would have to be in it for it to come throughout all over. Because, you know, your Bible says no weapon formed against me shall prosper. And the Bible says that the effectual fervent prayers of the righteous availeth much. The Bible says for you to cease without praying. What is it? Did you stop praying? Well, if you didn't stop praying, then how did it get through here? Oh, I'm sorry. Where two or three are gathered in my name, there am I in the midst. Is it that he forgot to come into the midst, or you didn't summon him to the prayer meeting? Or did you not show up at the prayer meeting? Or did he come and he was powerless? Or did you come and you were powerless? Or were both of you powerless? Or is it that your prayers just weren't effective and effectual? Think about that. See, this is more than China or anybody else. This is not China. In fact, I wish you would leave China alone, because I kind of like Chinese food. I mean, that clean type, when it's not loaded with sauces and loaded with sodium. But I kind of like China. I like the people. They don't bother me. They don't bother us per se. They're doing just what we in other countries are doing. They're trying to survive amidst a monster, the monster called the United States. And then the greater monster called the church. Okay, let's continue on. These are words that are specific to the world and its systems, and I explain what the systems are. The systems that we see, whether it's in the legal system, the housing system, the economic system, the political system, the healthcare system, whatever kind of system you see, the education system, whatever it is you see or that you consider a system, God says that the systems are on trial. The world is on trial. But there are certain systems that are on trial, seemingly more so or for more than what other systems are on trial for. You have local systems on trial. You have state systems on trial. You have tribal systems on trial. You have governmental systems on trial. You have whole countries and their systems on trial. Then you have the whole world and all of its systematic systems, or systemic systems, systemic flowing of its systems. They're all on trial. Right now, I'm just dealing as a whole, the world and its systems. One of the areas that the world, this is not just something within the United States, though I will probably beat it more so with the United States as I get to where I'll deal with the subtopic of as it relates to the United States and its systems. But the world and its systems have a racial issue, have a race issue. And wherever you have man, you will have race. And wherever you have race and man who is ignorant or just foolish or just hateful and resentful or jealous, and all of the above, you will have racism, schisms, divisions within and throughout the races. This racial movement that is going forth is a worldwide racial movement. You see this in Great Britain. You see this in Germany. You see this even in Africa. You see it in Canada. You see it perhaps more, somewhat in Australia. You don't see a lot of what they're putting forth, but you see this there. You see it in France. You definitely see it within the United States. You see it over in the Middle East. You see it over in Israel. You see it in Palestine. You see it in all of these places. This is again a pandemic, a physical manifestation of a spiritual truth, a spiritual manifestation looking or echoing or resembling or working in a spiritual manner throughout the spiritual realm and seen within the physical realm. Pandemic, physical realm, worldwide workings of God, the sovereignty of God, working throughout all the systems, working throughout the world at one time. That's what I'm dealing with. The racial movement will disrupt, and this racial movement is disrupting, and people don't like it. This movement will disrupt the systems. This movement will disrupt the social systems that racism has corrupted. Racism has corrupted the systems of this world. This movement will disrupt the corruptive systems. This movement will disrupt the corruption that systems are built upon. This racial movement will be a disruptive movement. This movement will disrupt those who are corrupt. This movement will disrupt those who are in corrupt fields. Corrupt enterprises will be the most affected by the disruption of this period. Corruption of every sort will be exposed and dealt with during this season. This is not necessarily racism just toward one particular race, one particular ethnic group. This racism, for some, it's blacks toward whites. Then you have whites toward blacks. You have white toward Hispanics, blacks toward Hispanics, Hispanics toward blacks and whites. You have people from other countries who have a type of race. You can say ethnic race, or you can say race itself, the color itself, which is really stupid, but it is what it is, and to each his own. But this isn't just one particular, this racism movement doesn't go just one particular way. Corrupt enterprises will be the most affected by the disruption of this period. Corruption of every sort will be exposed and dealt with during this season. This is not a period where people and things are simply being exposed, but rather this is a period where, as people and things are being exposed, what is being exposed will be dealt with as well. And those who are being exposed will be dealt with. This season will disrupt corruption throughout the world. The disruption upon the corruption will be seen throughout the entire world. The world will see its corruptness be brought to justice. The world will see its corruptness be dealt with severely. The things that are being exposed in this season will not be swept over. Things will no longer be swept under the rug. People will not be able to dismiss what is to be exposed in this season. People will not be able to deny the things that will be exposed. Things will no longer be dismissed or denied. The presidency of the United States began the process, and we're talking about the 2016 presidency, began the process of this disruptive season. The disruption of this season began with the 2016 presidency. This is not something that I just stated. This is something that I was told from the divine. The disruption that is occurring in this season began with the presidency of the United States. The 2016 presidency was a disruptive process. The 2016 presidency disrupted the world. The 2016 presidency was a disruptive process. Again, it disrupted the world. The 2016 presidency disrupted the world's systems. The market, the stock market was disrupted throughout the world. Well, I'm going ahead of myself. It disrupted the systems of this world. It disrupted the nations. It disrupted nations and even societies. The 2016 presidency disrupted the world's economy. It disrupted the economic systems of this world. It disrupted the political systems. It disrupted the health systems. It disrupted the legal systems. It disrupted the religious systems. It disrupted religion. It disrupted homes and relationships. The world was disrupted by the 2016 presidency. During this season, political systems throughout the world will be turned on their heads. You see political systems in Africa. You see political systems in the East. You see political systems throughout so many places where that huge bomb took place, that huge explosion took place, and they actually ousted their president and his cabinet and all of those in authority there in the political arena there. You see other places where they took hostage. They come in, they move in independent of the state or whatever, and they took the president and they took some of his people, if I'm correct, and they are holding him, or were holding him. I don't know if they're still holding him until he resigns. The political systems are being turned on their heads. The political system will lose its political correctness. Political correctness will no longer be effective. Political correctness will no longer have its place. During this period, the bullies will be bullied. Those politicians who made the laws will themselves be made subject to the laws. The enforcers of the law will have the law now enforced upon them. Those doing the beating will be beaten themselves. Something that God stated to me was that this is a season of flip-flop. The oppressed will now be the ones, if any oppressing needs to be done, doing the oppressing. Whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. Well, you reap what you sow. There's another verse that says you sow the wind, but you reap the whirlwind. You get to sow the seed that you sow, if indeed you're to sow it. But how that seed returns, you know not how, you know not when, you know not where. But this divine pandemic season may very well, and I say it is the time, the season, the place for it to return. You don't get to choose how it returns. The influence of people will be stripped. People's influence around the world will be stripped from them. People who had influence before and even during this pandemic season will be stripped of such influence. Some of this you will remember me saying in other ways before. People will be stripped naked of their influence. I, God, will strip the influences of groups. I will strip the different groups that have influence over people and that keep them from evolving with the change. Again, let me read that again. I will strip the different groups that have influence over people and that keep them from evolving with the change that is going on. The influence of such people will be transferred. During this season, those doing the oppressing will themselves be oppressed. The oppressors will themselves be oppressed. The industries that created the oppression will now be oppressed. Those controlling the money will now be controlled by the money that they once controlled. Their money will now control them. This current season is exposing the systems of this world for what they truly are. The spotlight has been placed upon the systems that have failed at every level. The spotlight has been placed upon the systems that have failed at every level. This pandemic is merely exposing what is to be exposed. This pandemic season has simply stirred up everything that was broken. This pandemic season didn't create anything. A creative moment was created beforehand, predetermined beforehand to be at this fullness of time. And in the fullness of time, the pandemic came. This pandemic season gave way for everything that was broken to be brought to the light. This season didn't necessarily break anything. What was broken has come to the light. What was broken before this pandemic season. Now, this pandemic season may complete the process of it, but the official breaking of it, it was already broken. It was broken from its conception. Even the church. I'll show it, but I'll wait. The broken systems of you don't want to miss the church. You don't want to miss the church. Let me say that again. You do not want to miss what God spoke to me regarding the church. The broken systems of this nation, the broken systems of this world are being brought forth for everyone to see. This is a period of realignment for the world. This will be a season of realignment for the world. This is a season where things will begin to be realigned. This is when I will realign the systems of this world. This is a period of systematic realignment of systems. The systems of this world are being realigned. This season is where the systems of this world will begin to realign themselves innately because of the divinity of God, the time and the timing and the divinity of God, the divine workings of God, the sovereignty of God. All of this, it's free will, and you have a will, and you have a this, and you have a that. You can't even will this virus to not touch your lungs. You can't even will yourself to sit down long enough to let God work through this virus. You can't even sit long enough to hear God talk to you about this virus. Some of you, you're even struggling to even listen to the things that I'm speaking regarding what God stated in regards to the virus. You're mad and I'm just a mailman. Come on, don't do that to me. I need a job too. I have to have a calling too. I'm just on my job. I'm just bringing you what them folk put in the mail, what God sent through the spiritual mail system to get to you, whoever you are. I don't know you. I'm just delivering it into the airways. I'm just uploading it onto my podcast sites. That's all I'm doing. Anyway, nations will be realigned. Communities will be realigned. Religion will be realigned. Religious groups will be realigned. Human action is being taken. Human action is occurring. Human activity is being stirred up. Human activism is being ushered in. People all around the world. This is not just the United States. I remember early on, I was speaking to my dad. Maybe it was in April or May of 2020 of this year. And we were talking and I stated to him, I said, well, if this is a pandemic, and the hand of God is in it, which I believe that it was, but I was stating to him regarding this. I had already believed that it was, but I was making a statement in that if this pandemic is truly of God, and if what I'm saying is correct regarding this pandemic, then whatever happens within the United States, you will have to see it worldwide because it's a pandemic. It has to happen throughout. Not every single thing, perhaps, but definitely the bigger picture, the bigger things such as racism and inequality, injustice, that is worldwide. That comes from and through humanity. Humanity is worldwide. So People are being activated throughout the world into position to reposition everything that is out of position, to reposition everything that is out of proper alignment. Everything is changing its position. Everything is repositioning itself during this season. The universe is repositioning itself. The universe itself. The universe consists of all that is within, all humanity, all systems, all that is within. The universe is repositioning itself. This is what God stated to me. This is not something that I'm just stating. During this season, the positions of this world will go through a repositioning. The positions of this world will go through a repositioning. The nations of this world will go through a period of repositioning. People are being positioned. People are being put into position for the realignment of the systems. People are stepping forth to position themselves. People will be shuffled during this season of uncovering. People will be shuffled from their positions and into their positions throughout the world, meaning some will be removed from their positions and into their positions. Others will be removed from their positions and others will take over their positions. This pandemic period will cause people to be moved from their positions. The divine shuffling. The moves and changing of positions that will occur will not be normal moves, but these will be landslide moves. These will be moves that will shake up systems. These will be moves that will change the way systems are run. These will be life-altering changes. People in power will lose their positions. Presidents will lose their positions. Politicians, this is around the world. Presidents will lose their positions. Politicians will lose their positions. Governments will lose their positions. CEOs will lose their positions. These losses will be unprecedented and in great numbers. There are a lot of people within these systems of this world. There are a lot of people who must be shifted, moved, sent home, sent to glory land, sent to wherever. I did not say hell because I don't believe in hell, even though if there were a hell, perhaps some of them need to go. But I am not their maker. I'm not their creator. I'm not the one who put the breathiness of life in them. I did not blow nephesh or put pneuma in them, and I will leave them alone. Okay, I have no hell to put them in, and neither do you. And perhaps your Bible does, only because of how man interpreted it based upon his own preconceptions, his own perceivings, his own influences from the Greek mythologies of old. But I have no hell, nor does God have a hell, not in that sense. The hell, it seems that God had for some of us, or has for some of us, is the hell that we're going through now, and the hell that some of us have gone through throughout our lives, or throughout our life individually. So there is a realigning and repositioning of human behavior during this season throughout the world. The cells of humanity are repositioning themselves. The cells of humanity are repositioning themselves. Man's being is repositioning itself. Man's entire being is being realigned. I am aligning people's thinking. I am aligning people's behavior. I am changing people's attitudes. How people think and how they behave will be realigned. People's thoughts will be realigned. Human thoughts are being realigned. People's thoughts toward humanity are being realigned and repositioned throughout the world. How this country views that country, how that country views this country, how countries interact, how people interact with each other, how systems are set up and interact with each other in a positive manner. All of that is changing. This is the season for the injustices of the world to be judged. The injustice by people toward the people will be brought into account during this season. This is where the injustices of this world will be judged. This is where people are to be brought to account for the injustices that have been rendered. This is the season for corruption to be judged. This is the season where corruption will be judged. Corruption will receive its just due in this season. Corruption has come to its full circle. Corruption has paved its course. Corruption has paved its way through every system known to man. Corruption has infected every system in this world. Now corruption is being brought forth. Now corruption is being brought into account. Corruption is being accounted for. Corruption is now being judged. Corruption is being recompensed. Corruption is receiving its just due. This is a period where corruption will receive its just due. Corruption around the world is receiving the payment it is due. The corruption of the political and legal systems will receive heavy judgments. The corruption of the political and legal systems will receive heavy judgments. The judgment against those systems that are corrupt will be severe. Those systems will receive swift judgments upon them. This is worldwide. When it comes to the realignment of the world's systems, the church has played. I will talk about the church. Lord, how I will talk about the church. Touch my prophet and do my what? Touch not my prophet, or touch not my anointed and do my prophets no harm. Oh, but you can touch all of God's anointed and you can do harm to God's. But then you say, touch not my prophet and do my prophet no harm. When it comes to the realignment of the world systems, the church, I'm not afraid of that church mess, that hocus pocus. You can't even deal with the virus, but you have all power and all power is under your feet. Okay. But you can't get the virus out of your lungs or keep it from entering your lungs. When it comes to the realignment of the world's systems, the church has played a poor and shameful role in realigning the world's systems. I will deal with that when we get there. Mercy, and then more mercy. For centuries, the church has refused to address the systemic racism that has prevailed or that prevails throughout the world. The problem of racism is so prevalent throughout the societies of this world, and the church has done very little to end it throughout the world. But we will talk about that at another time. For the world and its systems throughout the world, this season that we're in, it is a woeful season. We are in a woeful season. Woeful. Woe. You are in the midst of a woeful season, world. This season is filled with woeful events that will occur throughout this entire world. Woeful events will occur during this season. Woeful events will fill this season. There will be woeful events that cannot be measured. The woeful events of this season will not be able to be measured during this season. This season will bring catastrophe. There will be catastrophic events throughout this season. The events that will occur during this season will be catastrophic in the devastation they will bring. And this is not the end. This is not the so-called end. This is not what this is. This is not what this will be. This will be greater than the end. This will be greater than what the end is told to be. This is greater than what has been foretold regarding the end. This is greater than what has been spoken. This is greater than what is written. Do not get caught up on the end of things. Capital END, being that the end times and all of that other stuff, the Revelation and Daniel and all of these other things. Do not get caught up on the so-called end of things. This is not the end of things. This is not where things will end, but this is where things will end. Things, the world will not end, but things that we have come to know and to practice and to accept, be forced to accept. The inequality, the injustice, the racism, the lack of health care, and all of these other things, those things are coming to an end. However, things will come to an abrupt end during this season, but not the world itself. This season will end many things. Many things will come to an abrupt end because this season will put many things to their end. No longer will things continue to be in this world as they have been. Many things that once were will no longer be. Many things that were once permitted will no longer be permitted. No longer will people permit the things to be as they once were permitted to be. People will not permit what was once permitted. This is what God said. And people saying, just shut up and dribble. Just go back to playing ball. Go back to doing the gigolo on stage for me. That's over. People are tired of that. It has reached its end. God says people have grown weary. People have grown weary in letting things be as they were. People are awakening to the truth. People are awakening to the truth of what is supposed to be. People's reality is dawning on them. People are awakening to their own reality. People are awakening to the truth of how things are supposed to be. This is a season where people's eyes will be open. This is a season where people will begin to see clearly throughout this world. This is a season where people will see clearly. Hearing, people will begin to hear fully. This season is full of things to hear. This season is full of God speaking. This season is filled with hearing. The need to hear during this season will drive the people. This season is filled with people's need for hearing, and people will be driven by that need to hear. All around the world, they will have a strong need to hear throughout this season. And guess what? And you will not have to run to a church house to hear it. You will not have to run to a bishop or an apostle or even a prophet necessarily to hear. God will has begun to speak to individuals. Now, there are people who God will send forth. I'm sure there are prophets that God will send forth. I know there's one that I believe more regarding than I believe not regarding, but I only know one. The others, I don't know where they are. Okay. But then there are many who will say they don't know where I am either, and they don't like me, and they'll call me a lying prophet. And then of course, well, they really can't call me a heretic. I've already, labeled myself as a heretic. I didn't really label myself as a heretic, though I did. I took on that name. I took on what people were calling me anyway. Since 1994, I will take that. I am your lovely and proud heretic. And you can't shut my mouth. Not like that. I have to say it like Jesus said it. You have no power at all over me except that which was given to by God. If indeed Jesus said that, but even if he didn't say it, it was stated that he said it, and it is a principle, because if God is sovereign, how can you touch what God has not purposed for you to touch? How can I curse whom God has not cursed? In fact, even if you wanted to bless me, believe in the Old Testament, in the book of Numbers, probably between Numbers chapter 20 through chapter 24, something like that. In his speaking to Balak, he said, I can do nothing except that which God has done. He says, I can't even bless you if I wanted to, if God has not blessed you. So how in all hell can I curse you with all hell if you being cursed with all hell has not been granted by God? Even your Bible says, and we know we have the things that we ask for. Why? Because we ask in accordance with his will. Is it his will for me to be cursed with all the things of hell? All right, then. Rest my case. This season is filled with people's need for hearing. People will be driven to hear. They'll have a strong need to hear throughout this season. Currently, the world is not hearing. Currently, the world is not trying to hear. Currently, the world is not wanting to hear. People's desire to hear will be great. Even though the world is not desiring to hear, they will. People will come to a point in this season where their desire to hear will be great. This season will create a desire within people to hear. People will desire to hear what is true. They'll desire to hear what is of substance. It seems as though they'll be tired of the lies and the persuasions in other directions and the incorrect so-called prophecies and the incorrect words that are being spoken. Some people will run after those things. They'll run to those things, and then they'll realize, and then they'll be diverted to truth, and they'll have a hunger and a thirst for what is right, what is true, what is exact, what is of substance. People will desire to hear substance of truth. There will be a great demand upon people who hold the truth. So if you hold truth, and if God has been speaking truth to you, and if he has been preparing you for years, this substance, or I'm not going to say it has to be for years that he prepared you, but if he has been grooming you, you should know the substance of truth will be of great demand, and you need to get ready. Those who have truth will be of great demand in this season, throughout this season, even beyond this season, I would say, if it is purpose for you to live beyond this season. The days of little or no substance will no longer be accepted. People around this world will no longer accept the days of little or no substance. People will no longer feed upon things that are of no substance. This season will place a demand on people's substance, upon people to deliver substance. Substance will be demanded of those who speak during this season, because people will no longer settle for things of little or no substance. You will not be able to fluff your way through this, preacher. Teacher, you will not be able to flip-flop your way through this one. You will not be able to fake your way through this one, prophet. You will not be able to conjure up things that are lovely and good for the itchy ears to hear. You will not be able to put forth anything that will stick to the stomach walls, the spiritual stomach walls of people, unless it is of true substance now. You will not be able to hum your way through it. You will not be able to Hammond organ your way through it. You will not be able to keyboard or guitar your way or drum your way through this one. Preacher, you won't be able to get your mojo on, preacher. No, people are tired of the mojo. The mojo is what got us all messed up now. The mojo is what got us where we are now. Preacher, it's over. Preacher, it's over. I don't know one preacher that I talked to in this whole time period, I'll probably talk about it later, who has wanted to hear anything that I've had to say, because the message that God has given me is a message that tears down and challenges the sacred cows of the church order, of the church world. The message that God has given me is a Jeremiah type message that was ordained for me to speak, ordained for me to speak regarding the church. I shall not hold back. It may cost me much, but I have little to give anyway other than my soul. It is what it is, and I must say what I must say. Throughout the world, people are suffering at the hands of the church, have suffered at the hands of the church, at the ones who have their hands upon the helm. Well, Mr. Sir, Mr. Ma'am, Mr. Whoever, Mrs. Mr. Whoever you are, check this out. Your days have always been numbered, but your days are rounding up to a complete close. Your well is only at a drip. Your well will begin to dry. Even as I speak this forth, your well is drying up. Those who speak during this season must possess substance. Those who speak in the political arenas of this world, you're going to have substance now. You won't be able to speak from the guts of your lobbyists. You won't be able to speak from the guts of whoever you represent and whoever is paying you on top of the table, under the table, or whatever else. Whoever is scratching your itch will not permit this season, whoever is scratching your itch, this season will not present a stage for you to be a...
No! You better stop it.
All right, it rhymes with itch. If you take basketball, I borrowed a letter. You take that one letter and you put it over there with that itch. And then we go back to what I said. I said it like this. This season will not allow you a stage in order that you may push the agenda, the hidden systematic agenda of your people who you owe an itch to. In this season, you will not have a platform to behave as a... Remember that B we borrowed from basketball? Take that B and put it over there with itch. And that's what it won't allow you to do. This season won't allow you to do that. Those who speak during this season must come forth with substance. This season around the world will uncover the secret ones, the hidden ones around this world. You see, so many people have gone on, whether we're talking about the Roberts and the Bunkies, those within the church realm, those within the political arena. These people have gone on, whether we're talking about the United States or around the world. These people have gone on. They have done their error. They have done their duties, their destiny on this plane of earth has been completed, I suppose. People who possess substance will come forth in this season because you have a lot of positions divinely opened, divinely vacant. People with substance will begin to come forth from obscure places. People who have been hidden from the public will begin to come forth throughout this season. Here we go. I'm going to use this word. Don't like to call his name, but I got to call it like God called it. Donald Trump will be the teacher of the world. Donald Trump, President Donald Trump, will be the teacher of the world. The world will learn from him. The world will learn of him, and the world will learn from him. The world will be taught a lesson by Donald Trump. The world will become dark. The world will become dark during this season. And this season will begin to be very dark. And we know, and I've spoken on that, but people will begin to wander aimlessly and wander and wander, WONDR, and wander all around the world. People during this season, they'll become hopeless. The events of this season will cause things to become hopeless, and people will see no hope. They will not be able to see their way. Their hearts will begin to faint. They'll lose heart. They're going to want to give up. During this season, they're going to want to give up. This is not going to be a peaceful season. This will be everything but a peaceful season throughout this world. This season is all about upheaval and rooting out and tearing down, and nothing about this season will resemble anything peaceful. The streets will be filled with tension throughout the world. Tension will fill the hearts of the people. People will be full of tension, which will lead to violence. The streets will be filled with violence throughout this world. Violence will fill the streets, and people will begin to use their weapons in record numbers. People will begin to feel their country. People will see the need to defend their country, and they're going to do so. The people, God says, around this world have continued to demand the ways of old. The people are continuing to put forth effort to continue as they were. The people are not wanting change. People are not interested in the change that I am bringing. The people have persisted in their ways. The people are not wanting the change that I am bringing, but it really doesn't matter. The normal that was will never be. Things will never return to normal. Things will never be normal. Things will never get back to normal. No one will return to the normal that used to be. No one will go back to business as usual. The days of business as usual are clearly over. It really does not matter what the people think. It does not matter what the people believe. What the people both think and believe does not change what will be. The people's opinions will not affect what will be. What will be is going to be whether the people accept it or not, whether they want to believe it or not, whether they want it or not. So it really doesn't matter. The United States, I'll deal with this later, but the United States will become familiar to the world for the wrong reasons. The United States will be known for its displayed behavior throughout this season. The United States will become a byword because of its behavior during this season. God didn't begin to tell me about the dismay of the United States or the dismay of the world toward the United States back in March, if I'm correct, March or April 6th, but I think it was March 31st, if I'm correct. The world will be dismayed at the United States. The world will be dismayed by the behavior of the United States. The world will look in dismay at what is occurring in the United States. The world will be puzzled by the response of the United States in this season. We should see that by now, people. This has already happened now. I mean, you can see it now. Not at the point in time that God stated it to me, but you can see it now. The world will begin to distance themselves from the United States because of this season. There will be a breakaway by other countries from the United States. Other countries will break away from their relationship with the United States. Before this pandemic, if you remember, it was the United States breaking itself away from other world nations, other nations of this world and world organizations. Well, now you will begin to see nations breaking themselves away from the United States as though we have the bubonic plague. And actually, literally, we do, more so than others. This virus is far from being over, and this is worldwide. This virus has not run its course. This virus has not completed its course. This virus is far from doing its total damage. This virus has a lot more course to travel. This virus will continue to wreak havoc. The numbers pertaining to this virus will continue to increase. The virus will continue to spread. The deaths will continue to rise, continue to multiply. It'll be alarming. The death rate will be devastating. On July the 11th, God began to speak to me, and he said to me, these things regarding the world, things are beginning to look bleak. Things are beginning to appear. Things are beginning to come into play. You are beginning to see how things will unfold. You are seeing things unfold. You are seeing things as they unfold. You are now seeing the unfolding. You have entered the occurrences of this season. This season of occurrences has begun. You will see a multitude of issues coming forth. And think back from the beginning of July to where we are now here in the beginning of October. How much has now come into play? Things will begin to occur at record speed, and we see that now. You will begin to see things unfold everywhere. Things will begin to unfold everywhere. There will be no break between the issues that will come forth in this season. It will all come forth at once. He said to me in July, the early period of July, violence will now begin to break forth. Violence will break forth in every sector. Violence will break forth throughout every sector. You will see violence at a scale that will be alarming. You will see violence as you have never seen it before. You will see the type of violence that has not been heard of in the United States, though the world will have its share as well. Now, I will say this here. I don't want to read too much of that because I'm going to speak on that when I deal with the United States and its system specifically. The violence will be out of control. You will begin to see underhanded deals taking place, and I'll deal with that as well at another time. Well, I have to say it for the world too. You will begin to see underhanded deals come forth. People will begin to do things that will secure their future, at least in their attempts. People will begin to make arrangements and pacts, PACTS, with each other that will secure their future. Their deals will be criminal. Their deals will be revealing. Their deals will be disheartening. You will see death as never before. All around you will be deaths. Deaths will occur all around you. Death will consume the earth. The earth will be filled with death. The grave will be full of death. People, we have not seen the deaths that will mount up around this world. Death will be seen at alarming rates. Death will occur at record numbers. Death will be experienced in a way that has never been experienced. especially within the United States. You will see death as having no end. There will seem to be no more ending in sight for death. Death will consume multitudes. Death will spread itself through every sector. Every family will experience death. Death will show its strength to every family. Every family will see the death of loved ones. Every household will have its taste of death during this season. People will no longer be able to mourn due to the amount of death. The mourning of the people will cease. People will become desensitized. They'll have no regard for the sanctity of life. The sanctity of life will become non-existent due to the violence and the sheer number of deaths that is going on throughout this time period. Death will cover the earth. Death will sweep the earth as never before. Death will consume the earth during this season. Death will be seen on a scale that has never happened before. You will experience death on a level that has never been seen before. Death is being recorded at a level that has never been recorded. History is being made at speeds that exceed history's ability to record. Throughout this world, things are happening, God says, at warp speed. You are in an unprecedented season. You, the world, are in an unprecedented period in history. History is being experienced at a rate that has never been recorded. History is being recorded in an unprecedented manner. It will be very difficult to keep up with the speed at which things are occurring during this pandemic season. I would not want to be a historian in regards to recording, as it relates to recording all that is happening. That guy, that gal, they got their work cut out for them in this season. Things are occurring during this season at speeds that will make it nearly impossible to record them. The speed at which things will occur throughout this season will cause people to lose themselves. People will begin to lose themselves due to the speed at which things will occur. All around you will be activity. All around you will be changes. All around you will be closures. All around you will be destruction. The destruction has begun. The destruction of this season has begun its process. The destruction of this season will not cease until it has completed its process. The shaking has begun. The shaking of the earth's surface has begun. Everything upon the earth's surface will begin to shake. And then I told you in the same period that God gave me this here, there was an earthquake felt in South Carolina near Charlotte, North Carolina. And I witnessed the very moment. I was conscious of it the very moment. I did not know that it was an earthquake. I thought it was my body. I thought I was getting dizzy and I wanted to faint. I thought my blood sugar was low. I thought maybe my pressure is high or maybe my pressure is low. What is this, God? Why am I feeling this way? And then I get alerts from the Weather Channel stating that an earthquake had just occurred. My son, who lives in Charlotte, North Carolina, one of them, I called him and he witnessed it as well. Everything within the earth's surface will become unsettled. And when that earth quaked, everything that was upon the earth's surface, even my recording studio, shook. Everything within the earth's surface will become unsettled. And then they said where the earth quaked at, there isn't even a fault there. So how did that happen? But anyway, everything within the earth's surface will become unsettled. You will begin to see the unsettling of businesses. Businesses will begin to crumble as the earth is shaking. Businesses will begin to be unhinged. Businesses will begin to unravel. Things around you will begin to unravel. You will see the breakdown of systems. Systems will begin to fall apart. Systems will begin to break down. The breakdown of systems will be alarming. The breakdown of systems will cause people to panic. People's faith will begin to leave them. People will lose their faith. They'll lose their hope. They'll see no hope. The days will begin to get dark. Things will begin to get eerie. Things will begin to unsettle. Things will begin to get gruesome. The healthcare system around the world will become overwhelmed. The healthcare systems will unravel as well. Now, we've seen perhaps an overwhelming of the healthcare system and even the legal system during this early on time period back in perhaps maybe March, I don't know, maybe April, May, something like that, around the world. Perhaps in the world it was going on in January, February. I'm not sure. I wasn't paying attention to what was going on around the world at that time. But anyway, I'm sure the information is out there. You can go and find your dates and whatever. I try to save clips from news feeds or what family members or constituents send me, and I'll save those. I'll send them to my text, or I'll send them to my email, or I'll save them as they come to my email. And I have those things all in a saved folder in my email account, so as to look at perhaps one day to see the unfolding of all of this, and perhaps bring that stuff into some of the things that I'm being told by God. But anyway, the healthcare systems will be overwhelmed. There's apparently going to be a greater overwhelming of the systems, to the point that the systems not only crack, but they break open and crumble. They're going to come to a crumbling point. That has not happened, which is partly because the pandemic has not completed itself, or whatever else is coming. Injuries from violence and war, civil war like behavior. Let's just keep moving. The healthcare systems will become overwhelmed. The healthcare systems will unravel as well. The number of dead will overwhelm the healthcare systems. The number of sick will cause the healthcare system or systems to crack. Businesses will begin to unfold. You will see the closing of major corporations. You will see corporations lose their legitimacy. Perhaps we'll begin to see the underworkings of corporations. The legitimacy of those corporations will be in question. You will see corporations lose their CEOs. You will see corporations go bankrupt. You will see corporations cease in their existence. Throughout the world, there will be a shortage of food. There will be a shortage of food production. Food will be produced at a much slower pace. The pace of food production will not be able to keep up with the demand. Food will begin to become scarce. Food supply will become scarce. There will be hunger like never before. Hunger will reach its peak during this season. Hunger will reach its highest peak throughout this season. Prepare yourself for what is coming. Prepare yourself for what is soon to appear. Prepare yourself for the approaching danger. Prepare yourself for the devastation. I am preparing myself as much as I know how to, whether it's in stocking up food. Some people call it stockpiling. You call it what you want. I'm doing what I know I heard God tell me to do. You call it what you want. They want you to leave it there for somebody else, right? But somebody else is them. They take everything off the top from the government on down and leave us with crumbs. And then they tell us don't touch. They told us when we all should have been wearing masks. No one go out there and buy masks. No one go out there and buy PPE gear. Or you're telling me not to buy protective gear because you know the first responders need it. Well, that's the problem. We've always had respect of persons for those who need it. This is a shame. Of course, I did not listen to that. when God told me to go with the flow, and I saw the direction of the flow from other countries as they were wearing masks and all, I said, let me go get my gloves. Let me go get my mask. Let me go get my Germ-X. Let me go get everything I can. And I went on a buying spree, and online companies loved me, I'm sure, because, while we were not being told anything in which we should have been, since it was known since at least early on February, when we were not being told anything, we were walking around sucking this stuff up. Then when the United States was finally given the green light to go and buy gear, masks, and whatever, the world had already hit our buying systems, our online stores. The world had already hit our supplies. The world had already gone to Amazon and stripped it. Now we were left with scraps. We were left with waiting for 1 to 2 months or even 3 months or never even receiving what we ordered because we were not told as we were supposed to. So if you wait on somebody to tell you to prepare, you will end up with that mess in your lungs. You will end up with a family or just you starving or hungry, not having adequate because you did not prepare beforehand because you were waiting on someone to tell you. I am not waiting on anyone to tell me anything. I hear and I go do. Whether you're talking about whatever you have to do to protect yourself, whatever you have to do to prepare for that front of things, you need to do what you need to do. Do what you need to do. But we'll get a little deeper into that a little later. In relation to the season, God said to me to continue to speak to the people, continue to tell them. It is necessary for you to speak forth the message of this season. The things of this season will break forth quickly. It is necessary for you to continue to spread what you have received regarding this season. This was July the 20th, 2020. So now we're 3 months down. August, September, October. We're almost 3 months to the day. So if time was running short then, when God said at that time, there is not much time to spread what you ought to speak during this season, just imagine how much time less we have now. The events of this season will break forth immediately. In one point, he said quickly. Right here, he said immediately. Listen, what I see is that when these things begin to actually manifest in some larger way, it'll already be upon you. And that can be any minute now, because we're living, I believe, we've already lived year to year. We've already now lived month to month. We've already come out of living week to week. Now we're living day to day. That's why I believe God said the events of this season will break forth immediately. There is not much time for people to prepare for the events of this season. The preparation period for this season is coming to its close. The time to prepare is coming to its end. People will not be able to focus during this period. People will not be able to maintain their focus due to the conditions that they will be living under. The activity during this season will be too intense for people to focus. There will be intense devastation. The devastation of this period will be intense. The devastation will be too intense for people to prepare at a later date. This is the time to prepare. This is the time for the people to prepare. Everyone is to have an urgency about their focus. Everyone is to be urgent in their focus. Focus on the urgency. Focus on the urgency of this season. Everyone that I've spoken to, whether it was my kids, whether it is other family members, people who I know, people who I come into contact with, I tell them these very words. The time to focus is now. Now is the time to focus. Now is your time to focus. Now is to be your time to focus. Now is when you are to focus. Now is the time for focusing. That's what God told me. Things will move quickly. Things will pick up in their momentum. Things will begin to accelerate. Things will quickly pick up speed. Things will lose their normal pace. Things will lose their normal timing. Things will be out of their normal timing. Things will begin to move at a record speed. Seasons will be out of their normal timings. Climates will be out of their normal timings. Time itself will be out of its normal timing. Time will have no break in between. Seasons will have no break in between. Events will have no break in between. You will begin to see the violence pick up. Violence will pick up in speed. Violence will accelerate. It will pick up in its intensity. It will spread itself throughout communities. It will be alarming. The waves of events will have no breaks in between. Everything will have a connected flow. Everything will connect with each other. There will be a continual cycle. Things will be void of interruption. There will be no interruption in cycles. Cycles will be continuous. In some places, I'm sure it will be worse than others. This will be a stressing season. This will be a stressful season. This season will be filled with stress. This season will create a stress that has not been known to mankind. And I want to say this here. Just because you may live in a portion of a country, in the portion of a state or city, you're in another country that is not seeing as much, you're not experiencing as much. Everyone is going to have their equivalent share, the share that is equivalent to what is due to you. However, just because you may be living in one of those pocketed areas, don't wipe this out as though this does not exist just because it does not exist where you are. Understand that the world is bigger than where you live. The world is bigger than what you perceive it to be. There will be, again, a revolt in the presidency. The revolt in the presidency within the United States. Well, the revolt will be the result of the election here in the United States, but that revolt will be felt throughout the world. And that's why I am making this known right here, because the world, God said to me, the universal result is coming because Donald Trump will not walk away. He will not walk away from the presidency. This is what God said. He will not walk away. He will not walk away from defeat. He will not walk away from his term in office. That's just not what he's going to do. There will be a universal revolt as a result. We need to look up that word revolt, and I have that word right here before me. To revolt means to attempt to overthrow the authority of the state, to rebel, to oppose or refuse to accept something, to feel disgusted or repugnant, to feel with disgust or abhorrence. An uprising, especially against state authority. It's a rebellion, an act of protest or rejection, a rebellion or uprising against authority. To rise up in rebellion against authority, to feel or cause to feel revulsion, disgust, or abhorrence, to break away from or rise against constituted authority as by open rebellion, to refuse to accept or be subjected to some authority, some condition, etc. To turn away in mental rebellion, disgust, or abhorrence. It's insurrection or rebellion, an expression or movement of spirited protest or dissent. It's organized opposition to authority. It's a conflict in which one faction tries to wrest control of another. It's an open clash between two opposing groups. to make revolution, to feel with distaste, to refuse allegiance to and oppose by force a government or ruling authority, to offend the senses or feelings of. Well, in this here, God stated to me that the universe will revolt. The world will respond. The world will be in an uproar. The streets will be filled with violence. The streets will be filled with blood. Bloodshed will be in mass numbers. Bloodshed and violence will fill the streets. God said, maintain your vigilance. Maintain a consciousness of your surroundings during this time period. Don't fall into a place of complacency. Do not become complacent. Stay in position. Stay in your position. Wear the mask. Wear the gloves. Be sanitary. Be safe. Be alert. Be obedient. Be observant of the medical advisors. Observe what is being said all around the world, that is. Observe the news. Observe what is occurring. Be self-aware. That is what God said to me in regards to the world and its systems. There is much more exact things that will come forth as I move on to my next subtopic, because I do have to cover in relation to the presidency and politicians, in relation to the United States specifically and its systems, because this is where I live. And that is an area that God gave me to speak regarding. I still have to speak regarding the church as well. Very interesting subject there. Very controversially interesting subject matter there that I will not shun away from. So, people, there you have it. To the world, I bid you that Godspeed, and may you prepare yourselves for the pending things that will occur in this season. May you do what is necessary to go into the future of what is being established, what is being erected in this period. Because in that period is where the good lies. In that period is where you will see the fruits of the labor in this period. Thank you.